What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Welcome back to the Respawn, where I answer your questions. Today we're talking a shape-shifting hero, homing attacks, and more. First question of the day, would a flamethrower-wielding hero that does damage over time work in Overwatch? Yes, but it's a little tricky. I'm currently working on a couple of hero concepts that use a lot of damage over time attacks and abilities, and I think it will work, but again, it's kind of really tough to balance. In case you didn't know, by the way, Hammond's original attack was double flamethrowers. Here's some early footage from when they were first testing him, and he did have that. It wasn't damage over time, I don't think. It was just more of a direct damage. As soon as you got hit, you took the damage, and that was it. With the increase in Overwatch's development crew, will we see an increase in content? I don't think so. I think they're still going to do 3 heroes a year, a couple maps, and the same events. I really don't think there's going to be any significant increase in the amount of content we get. Do you believe there will be a support hero that can improve a teammate's rate of fire or reload time? I think it's very possible. I think it would work in the game. Whether or not they're actually going to add it, that's a completely different question, but yeah, I think it could work, certainly. How do I know when I'm supposed to use Genji's primary or secondary fiber? His primary is for longer range targets, his secondary is for close range. Can you give me any advice for learning Doomfist? I'm trying to learn new heroes because I only play hitscan DPS. I would not try to learn Doomfist. He's currently one of the worst characters in the game. Wait until they buff him or change him, rebalance him in some way, because right now he's just not good. It's not worth spending your time learning a bad character. When Zarya is full charge, does her laser hitbox get larger? No, it does not. Do you think Lucio is in a good spot right now? Yes and no. I think the character is fine. The problem, and this is what I've been saying for a very long time, is that he's the only one that can do what he can do. And I'm talking specifically about the speed boost. The reason why you always use Lucio is because nobody else can provide speed boost. If there was other characters in the game that could increase the speed of their teammates, or even just one teammate at a time, like what I did with my hero concept Isaac, then people would be using other characters. But because he's the only one that offers any kind of speed boost, you have to use him. And I don't think that's really a good thing. I think there should be alternatives that can be used instead. How would a shapeshifter character fit within the game? Well, we kind of already have quote-unquote shape-shifting characters with Diva, Bastion, and even Hammond when he goes into the ball, because the hitbox for all of those characters changes when they move into that other form. But if you're talking about a character that just kind of changes into, I don't know, some big version of himself or whatever, I mean, even that we have Winston. So there are already the fundamental aspects of a shape-shifting character in the game, but they would just have to come up with a creative way to use it. I mean, they could do something like the T-1000, where it's just liquid metal and you kind of change shape and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it would work. You would just have to come up with an interesting story and abilities for it. Do you think a homing missile type ability would work in Overwatch? Kinda, sorta, but it would have to be really weak. The thing is, any sort of auto lock-on, homing, auto-aim type ability is really bad in a first-person shooter. Yes, Soldier 76 has it, but it's his ultimate, so that's kind of an exception. But anything else that auto-locks onto an enemy needs to be more of a utility thing as opposed to just doing damage. So you have Zenyatta's Discord, Sombra's Hack. Those are utilities. They're not actually dealing damage when you do it. And before anybody says anything, no, Winston and Moira do not have lock-on. They don't have soft lock-on. There's no auto-aim to any of it. I've already disproven it in one of my Mythbuster episodes. You can go and check it out if you want. So for the homing missile, yeah, it could work, but it would probably be really weak in order to make it balanced. Is the relative zoom sensitivity for Ana, Widow, and Ashe the same? No, they are different, so don't try to use the same settings for all of them. Could a hero with the ability to turn attacks into healing work in Overwatch? Yes, I think this definitely could work. Basically, it would be an ability, you could use it on yourself or maybe a teammate, where all the damage they take over the next 2 seconds is instead turned into healing. I think that would work fine. You put it on like a 10 or a 12 second cooldown, and it's just a defensive ability. I think that would be fine. What makes characters unable to leave Junkrat Trap but can leave Zarya Grav? So, you're talking probably about Reaper and Moira when they use their evasion abilities. Basically what happens is the Junkrat trap is a root, so it locks you in place. But with the Zarya grab, it doesn't actually lock you in place. If you notice, when you're in a grab, everybody's kind of bouncing around a little bit. There's still some movement. What happens with the grab is it's pulling everybody towards the center. It's not holding them there. So whenever you use Reaper's Wraith Form or Moira's Fade, what happens is all of that pulling effect gets removed and you become immune to it, which allows you to move out of it. But with the Junkrat trap, you're being held in place, and even though you're immune to the damage, you still can't move because you're being held at that spot. So I know it kind of seems the same, but functionally there's a difference. What kind of healer do you think they should be added to the game? They should add Dergby, and they should add Isaac. In your opinion, is it bad for the game having heroes that only work in very specific situations? Yes, it is extremely bad for a bunch of reasons, but probably the biggest is it takes Blizzard about 9 months to make a character, design it, get all the artwork for it, the voice lines, create it, program it, test it, all that sort of stuff, put it into the game. Takes about 9 months. If you have a character that only shows up once every 100 games and it took you 9 months to make it, that just seems like an absolutely massive amount of wasted time, effort, energy, resources on behalf of Blizzard. It just doesn't make any sense. Why don't they show player keybinds in Overwatch League? Because it's a special spectator mode and it just doesn't do that. Also, I want to point out that when you're watching the Overwatch League, you see the colors for the teams, right? Like the bright greens or the bright reds or whatever. But the players in the games don't see any of that. They see just default skins and that's it. So we're watching a very specially made spectator camera for the Overwatch League. That's why it's all different. Do you think Apex Legends is copying some of Overwatch's heroes? So this kind of thing comes up all the time. Anytime there's a new hero in any game, or there's a new game, or when I make one of my hero concepts, hey, isn't this ability like such and such? Here's the thing. All of these abilities have been around for over a decade. Dota, League of Legends, a bunch of other games, World of Warcraft, pretty much every ability that you can think of has already been done in some form or another. So it's really difficult to come up with completely unique, original things. Usually what you can do is just take something that already existed and just kind of put your own little twist or spin on it. And, you know, that works. But if you're trying to come up with something that's completely unique and never been done before, that's going to be kind of rare. So they're not copying. It's just that most of the stuff that you can do has already been done. What about new types of hit points, like a Psy barrier that protects you from critical shots? I think that would be more of just kind of like a buff. I don't think it needs to be any type of new health. There's already 6 kinds of health in the game. There's regular health, armor, shield, and then temporary versions of all 3 of those. I don't think they need to add more. I think you certainly could add a buff that a support or a tank character has that says, hey, you can't get crit for the next 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it happens to be. I think that certainly would work in the game. You just have to put it into a character that would make sense. Can a melee DPS be in Overwatch? I don't think so. They tried to do that with the original version of Genji. His sword was normally his attack, and it was just way, way too strong. And they needed to get rid of it because he just destroyed absolutely everyone. So you can have a tank or a support that is a melee character because they're very limited in what they can do. They're usually not going to have very good mobility. Like, for example, Genji has crazy mobility, right? So giving him a melee attack is just ridiculous. So you have characters that have other limitations or really low damage. Like Brigitte only does 35 damage per swing, right? Reinhardt does 75 damage, but it's really slow. So there's lots of different things, but I don't think a melee DPS is really going to work. I mean, they could at some point, maybe, but it's going to be really tough to balance that. Will you be continuing doing Overwatch League videos in your channel in the future? I would like to, but there needs to be enough interest in it. If people aren't watching for example, the Overwatch League daily recap videos, We're always trying to improve those. I've already made a bunch of improvements to the way that the videos are being made. We got skill, a better microphone, all that sort of stuff. So we're making improvements, but the interest needs to be there. If people aren't watching the video, then there's not a lot of point in us making the videos, right? But that is going to be all of the questions for today. Thank you to everyone who submitted one. If you didn't get picked, make sure you try again next week. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.